Hi, Peter. Point away from here again. Subject that I'm going to be discussing in this video is going to be, as you can tell from the header, nihilism. Now, in relation to nihilism, by definition, nihilism would be feeling a disconnection, loosely put, to the real world and simply lacking any feeling of being alive or wanting to be alive in a human context. And nihilism is obviously closely associated with other negative feelings or emotions. Examples that I can give are feelings of suicide, feelings of not belonging, feelings of self-loathing. Those are things that are closely associated with nihilism. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to discuss nihilism specifically. I'm specifically going to discuss nihilism from an occult perspective, as in what's the reason for why people are nihilistic. Generally speaking, people are nihilistic because on an occult or on a spiritual level is because there is a disconnection with their astral body. And again, speaking in general, people are nihilistic when they're essentially not supposed to be alive. And that's the feeling, those are the feelings that they get. They hear thoughts in their heads like, why am I alive? I'm not supposed to be alive. What's the point in living? What's the point in being alive? What's the point in existing? They have a thought process that closely resembles an existential crisis, or existential crisism, whatever. Okay. Now, generally speaking, people have this feeling when, like I said, when they're not supposed to be alive. They're essentially they're doomed people. They're people that, for example, they were simply born when, hypothetically speaking, they weren't fated to be born. They weren't supposed to be born. They're like quote unquote mistakes. That might sound crude, but that's why I said quote unquote. Okay. An example is, for example, a woman that wanted to have children, but she couldn't have children. She just naturally couldn't. And then she goes to a spellcaster, a magician, someone like me, and the person makes it so that she can have children. But that's one of the drawbacks. Generally speaking, if you do so, and for example, the person goes to a black magician and there are karmic boundaries, as in the person is karmically not supposed to have children or conceive children, then what's going to happen is that, this is going to happen. It'll be made so that you can have children, but your children will automatically be miserable. Okay, these children will essentially walk with their entire lives. They'll spend their entire lives with a black cloud hanging over their head or their heads. And the reason for that, like I just said, the reason is plain and simply because they weren't supposed to be born. So these children are like inherently cursed. That's the best way to explain nihilism. Nihilism is when someone is inherently cursed. The person was not supposed to be born, not supposed to be alive. And your astral body, essentially, if you're one of these people, your astral body is essentially acting out. That's why usually it starts when they're teenagers. The thing is that your astral body comes into development in terms of self-awakening. Your spirit, your astral body, whatever. It comes into awakening when you hit the age of like 10 years old, 11 years old, etc. Between the ages of 0 and 12, essentially, your astral body is like in its stages of infancy. It's similar to... your astral body finds itself in stages of infancy. It's similar to, how should I put it? It's similar to you as a child. You're usually unaware of what's going on around you. You're not conscious enough, okay, between the ages of 0 and 12. But when you hit puberty, then you become a lot more self-aware of your role, of who you are. You start gaining an identity, essentially. It's the same thing with your astral body. And you can imagine if you, for example, place yourselves in the hypothetical shoes of your astral body, and your astral body essentially says, hey, what am I doing here? I'm not supposed to be alive. Why am I in this person? Oh crap, I was reincarnated, etc., etc., etc. You name it. And your astral body is going to heavily act out. That's why, generally speaking, people that are nihilistic also, generally speaking, want to kill themselves. They generally speaking, want... Nihilism is accompanied by thoughts of suicide and feelings of suicide because it's essentially your astral body acting out and saying, hey, I don't want to be inside you, okay? So screw this. We were never supposed to. I was not supposed to be in the material world again, in the physical world, the world of the living. So again, kill yourself, okay? I'm not having any of this. That's essentially what nihilism is. That's where nihilism comes from. And if your astral body if your astral body sees that it generally speaking can't, if your astral body generally speaking sees that it has no other choice but to put up with you, it's going to put up with you. But you can imagine if you have an astral body that is that discontent with being inside you, or just being in the material world, that nothing good can come of it. So don't expect good things to happen to you. Your astral body is going to act out heavily, and you're going to lead a life of misery, honestly. You're going to be cursed your entire life, more or less. Okay? The only way that the only way to avoid that is to essentially appease your astral body. And in terms of people that are wondering how do I do that? Well, for example, you're someone that's nihilistic. Okay, I explained it. Now, how do I relieve myself? The answer, honestly, would be through occult means, through divination, finding out what the solution is, what your astral body wants the most. But generally speaking, it would be life purpose. It would be something that at a spiritual level fulfills you, and of course, an incredible amount of spiritual energy. That's generally speaking the only solution. I repeat, that's generally speaking the only solution. You simply need to be your astral body simply needs to be fed with heavy doses of energy, and it needs to find a constructive reason for being alive in the material world. So you need to be at peace with yourself. Inner peace is the best way to describe it. That's the generally speaking only solution, like I said. So that's all. If there are any questions, I'll hear it in the comment section. Take care, guys, and bye.
Got it?